What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 50 of Nintendo Noise, Flip Screen Games' weekly Nintendo podcast. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined, as always, by my very good friends and co-hosts, Mr. Chuy Plays.
Hello, hello.
And
Steve job.
Oh, okay. All right. That's good. All right. Now let's see if Sierra gets this one. And Miss Sierra plus Ultra.
Hello, hello.
You're supposed to say goodbye, goodbye.
Oh, wait. It's goodbye, goodbye.
All right. Hold on. Let's try again. Okay.
All right.
Mr. Chuy Plays.
Hello, hello.
And Miss Sierra plus Ultra.
Goodbye.
Nailed it. Who would
Yeah,
have even known
it's
that we did a
perfect.
second try? No, it's perfect.
We didn't mess up once. It just happened.
My thing is, I think also let's give a little bit of grace here because it's episode 50, incredible milestone. Thank you so much for tuning in for 50 episodes of Nintendo Noise. And Steve didn't even show up. Sky Books of it, it's funny. I was talking about this with a friend of mine. I was like, this is 2 years in a row. Steve scheduled a vacation the week we launched Flip Screen, and now here he is a year later doing it again, missing episode 50.
Oh,
Can you believe this guy? Can you believe? But it's all right because the anniversary episode of the Flip Screen Games podcast is, of course, next week's show. That is the actual 1 year anniversary. So I'm going to throw the plug here before we get to the rest of the plugs. I would love if everybody could write in with their favorite memory of the last year, favorite segment, favorite episode, maybe a fun moment from stream, something that happened in the Discord, whatever memories you have of the last year, the first year with Flip Screen Games. Make sure you write in for next week's show because I would love to read a couple of them on the air. We're gonna reminisce on this week's Flip Screen Games, and we're gonna talk about some of the names for the channel that we ended up having to either not pick for legal reasons or that we decided against. We've got some mock-up logos to show off and everything. It's gonna be fun. So it's gonna be a fun little anniversary celebration. So if you've got a good memory, make sure you write in. And guess what? There's a bunch of ways you can do that. Write into us at questions@flipscreen.games. Hit us up on the Discord. Hit us up on social media. We'll have a thread for it next week. However you choose to write in, we greatly appreciate you. Before I get into the rest of our plugs, let me remind you that this week's episode of Nintendo Noise is brought to you by our Patreon producers for the month of August for the first time. They are, of course, Christian Oliveria, Christopher Valenz, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, a.k.a. Asobi, Mary Berry, Smokey Shake, Wakahula, and Zaid Ida. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. Y'all are the realest of the real, and we appreciate your support of Nintendo Noise and all the cool stuff we're doing here at flipscreen.games. Speaking of which, if you want to check out all the links, all the places we are, flipscreen.games. That's the website. Go find us wherever you get your content. We're there making some content for you. So, let's jump into the start screen. We've had a bunch, and I've got a nice little backlog of them right now, and I'm going to be honest with you, folks. I forgot to pick one before we started, so I'm just about to close my eyes. I'm going to turn my head, and whichever one I see first, that's the one we're doing, okay? All right.
Okay.
3, 2, turn. Okay. This one comes from Sierra, a.k.a. Tamberwolf, from the community who wrote in and said, if the GameCube Nintendo Switch Online was announced this week, what would be your announcement lineups? I think this is a very fun question. So we're going to have to pick what GameCube games make it onto our starting lineup. If we're making the decision, we're launching it next week. My first question is, how many games should that be? I think we need to figure out how many came out when NSO dropped for N64.
I'm trying to remember how many it was. I think it was maybe 8 or 9, yeah, something like that.
Yeah, because they haven't added a ton.
I mean, it's kind of doubled, I think, since it started. Almost doubled.
I think it's I think there's 15 now. Okay, it does look like there were 9. You're correct.
Cool.
Or at least
Nice.
we're in that neighborhood. So we'll pick 9 to 10, we'll say. Right? If we can think of a 10th one that we really want to get on the list, that's cool. But we got to pick 9 GameCube games. I feel like we will all be in immediate agreement, right, that Animal Crossing should be one of those.
Yes, right away.
Slam dunk. That's
That
the
has
first
to
one.
be there.
That's the first one. So we got Animal
Yeah.
Crossing. I feel like... Now here's a good question. Are we trying to front load this with the best 9 games, or is this we're doing a couple offbeat ones so that they have things to go to when it's time to update it later?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are already with I guess what's online right now, there's already some very like key things missing. Like, why did we never get Harvest Moon for
Sure.
Super Nintendo? Why have we not gotten, I don't know, a lot of different things for the N64 one? Banjo-Tooie, all the Mario parties, where are those?
Great question.
So I think they'll probably throw in like probably the Mario and Zelda of that gen,
At
Wind
least,
Waker,
yeah.
Sunshine.
Okay,
And
so that's 3, right? Because I would agree that those 2 probably have to be on it, and you do still have an additional Zelda game to bring to the service later, right? With Twilight Princess.
yeah, the co-release, right? Didn't that come out
Yeah.
on Wii and GameCube?
It did. Controversially, though, they changed what hand Link used as his dominant hand in the Wii
Yeah.
version, which is just blasphemy. You can't be doing that. He's left-handed.
It's true.
All right, so we got 3 so far: Wind Waker, Animal Crossing, and Super Mario Sunshine. What else we got? Hit me with one, Sierra.
Oh, Pokemon Coliseum. I'm sorry, these gonna be 2.
Pokemon
Pokemon Coliseum and Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness.
All right,
yeah.
Which one came out first? Coliseum, right?
Coliseum did.
So we'll start with Coliseum, or no. But wait, Coliseum was not. That wasn't the one that had the story, right? It was just Gale of Darkness that had the story. Coliseum was more like
it was more battling, but I think it did have a little bit of a something.
I was thinking it's more like Pokemon Stadium, whereas a Gale of Darkness is the one where you're catching the corrupted Pokemon, and it's like that's like a very yeah. I feel like we start with Gale of Darkness and you bring Coliseum later.
Okay. Oh, that makes me.
If we're trying to be like wacky with it, right? Like I feel like that's like a way cooler pick, frankly.
Yeah.
All right, so we got 4.
And then speaking of Pokemon stuff, why the N64 still hasn't gotten Stadium and Stadium 2?
Truly whack.
What?
Like, let's get
what
it
is
on
going
there.
on with them?
Let's get it on there. I'm gonna say Luigi's Mansion's got to be on that list, right? Like that's launch title, one of the most iconic GameCube games. So that's 5.
I think they'll throw in something weird, something third party, something from Capcom. I think they put Resident Evil 4 on there.
That one's interesting. I think if we're putting it on our list, sure, like just put it on there. I think that's one of the most iconic GameCube games. But with the re-release, it's like, are they gonna like is that a factor or whatever? But like it doesn't matter. We're making the list. We get to do whatever we want. So I'm with you. I think that goes on the list. That's 6. All right. Yeah, like 3 more.
Paper Mario and the 1,000-Year Door.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, Paper Mario, 1,000-Year Door. That's a good pull.
Yeah.
Most people would agree that's the best one. So like that's a solid pick. Okay. Man.
I
mean Metroid Prime.
Yeah.
Has got to be on that. That's 8.
Yeah.
Yeah, and now's the time to do it. If they're still making Metroid Prime 4, if it's somewhere out there.
But it's also like, are they doing the remaster? And then it's like, okay, if there's a remaster, do we need a Prime on? But until we see it, right? Like I say, we put it on the list. It's one of the best GameCube games. How are you gonna not have it on there?
Right.
Yeah. There's so many good ones. There's so many good ones to pick from.
Considering they do have the partnership with Sega, like where they put the Genesis stuff on there, like do you maybe go with Sonic Adventure?
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Adventure 2 is the better one, but I feel like you go with Adventure and you bring Adventure 2 later, maybe.
Or maybe.
Yeah, they could do both.
You just put 2 first and be like, fuck it. Well, they did do that with Sonic 2 on Genesis. They didn't put Sonic the Hedgehog. They're like, we'll just do Sonic 2. It's better.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess we could do that if we want. It's our list. All right, fuck it. I'm saying it. Sonic Adventure 2.
All right. How many are we at?
Adventure 2 Battle. That's 9, right? Because that's Animal Crossing,
That's
Wind
9.
Waker, Sunshine, Luigi's Mansion, Resident Evil 4, Sonic Adventure 2 Battle,
Paper Mario,
and the 1,000-Year Door.
And
what were the other 2? We had
Gale
2.
of Darkness. I don't remember the 9th.
Pokemon XD Gale of Darkness, and I feel like there was a 9th one.
I don't know if there was. Why haven't they put Smash on the N64 one? It could be Melee.
Melee, that's a great call.
Yeah, but then everyone cries about netcode. I mean,
Yeah, that's true.
rightfully so, but
yeah. Gosh, there's
I'm
so
good
many.
with that
There's
though.
so many.
I feel like that's a really strong list.
Unfortunately, hopefully they would add Fire Emblem Path of Radiance later on.
Sure.
Or not, Path of Radiance, because that game is impossible to get unless you want to spend like over $300 on a single game.
That would be a good one too. There's a lot of good GameCube games, but I feel like some smattering of that list of games is like a nice spread. All right, I like it. I dig it. Thanks for writing in, Sierra. All right, so I got to tell you, I was so excited at the top of this episode to dunk on Steve. I didn't even tell you guys what we were getting into this week, all right? Because it's the big stuff, all right? We got 3 banger segments for us ahead of us right now. We've got Xenoblade Chronicles 3 out this week. We've got Digimon Survive out this week. And then just earlier today, we got a brand new trailer for Pokémon Scarlet and Violet with a ton of new information, some new Pokemon, really, really some hot stuff here. So I want to kick things off with Xenoblade. I feel like that is it's the A-tier Nintendo franchise that's out this week. We'll kick things off there. I know Chewy's playing it. I know I'm playing it. Sierra, you haven't gotten it yet, right?
Yeah.
All right, so let's start there, and I guess we'll say how far in are we? But before we even do that, Sierra, are you still interested in getting it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I just
cool.
Not yet.
Because I want to gauge how you feel before this part of the conversation and then after. Like, after we gas it up for 20 minutes, are you closer to buying it or not? We'll find out.
All right.
So, Chewy, I would say I think my game clock says I'm about like 10, 11 hours into the game.
Okay, you've played quite a bit.
Yeah, I've gotten pretty into it. If this is a spoiler light way to say where I am. I am, I think, 2 or 3 story beats after you unlock gem crafting. Don't know if you've done that yet.
Okay. No, I'm not that far.
All right. So I'm a good chunk of the way into it, I guess, right, for a 70-hour game. I won't bury the lead. I'm really enjoying it. I think it's really good. I think there's maybe one thing in it that I have like a legitimate gripe critique about, but otherwise, like on a systems level, I really like it. I think the combat is really fun, and it's super easy. I think it has like that really, really solid gameplay loop that I'm always talking about, especially when it comes to like a long, meaty JRPG, where like the game does a really good job of letting you take it at your own pace. It does a good job of like freeing you up to kind of like, like, are you in a place where you want to be like specifically working on like advancing the story? Do you want to be working on like building out your characters? Do you want to, like grind out like whatever, right? Like, and I find it really easy to kind of like play in a way where I'm very invested in what's happening and I'm kind of just going cutscene to cutscene, or like, oh, like I just kind of want to like have a TV game to unwind with and futz around or whatever. It's super easy to do that too. There's even like an auto battle option if you want to grind, but you don't really want to pay attention. Like it's super easy for you to kind of take it at your own pace. And I think for a big open world game that is like purportedly between like 70 and 150 hours, that's like really what I need it to be for me to like stick with it and not feel intimidated. Is like it's super easy to play it in these like bite-sized chunks, or if you want to dedicate a couple hours and just like focus on moving things forward, it's also very easy to do that. And like I said, I'm 10 hours in and my characters are already like around level 20, 23, I think is where I am. So I'm like making pretty good progress at beefing up my crew, and I'm very early in the game. So I think it shows how easy it is to just like get sucked into the like, oh, I'm just going to clear out every enemy in this place before I move on. And then they respawn and it's like, well, I'll fight a couple more, and like just kind of chipping away at it that way. I'm really, really happy that I'm liking it as much as I am, because we talked all about it right last week of like I'm excited for this, but is it gonna hit? Is it gonna be a Fire Emblem thing where I go in kind of not knowing if I'm gonna like it and it really connects with me, or is it gonna be one of those, I get like 10 hours in, and I'm like, I get what this is about, but I'm kind of done with it.
Yeah.
Happy to report I'm way more on the liking it side of things. Like, I really like the cast. I think they're charming for the most part. The voice acting is definitely the shit that Steve makes fun of, where it's just like these incredibly thick Cockney accents of like, just, I feel like every other sentence they're like, oi, gov. Like, it's just like, it's so on the nose. And like, the one character, Uni, she like, after like almost every fight, she's always like, do you hear that? Lons wants something a bit meatier. And it's like, it's, I'm not even exaggerating either. It's like, It's so much, but it's good. I like it. It's cute. It's charming. I'm interested in the world. I am very interested in the mystery that's been established of like, you know, there's these two warring factions. The warriors are like soldiers or whatever are all like born in these pods, and like they only live for 10 years if they make it that long. And this is all stuff that was revealed in the direct and in the trailer, so I'm not spoiling anything. And I'm just very interested in like what the goings on are, right? Like who orchestrated this? Like, you know, there's like been this kind of like shadow organization that's been teased that's maybe pulling the strings, and I know nothing about them even 10 hours in. So there's like a lot of very interesting questions to be answered, and I'm interested in that. I think it's doing the Horizon thing really well, where I'm interested in the broader story of the world and what's happening, but I also like the characters, and I'm interested in their personal journey and like what they're going through as a unit and how they're becoming a team and like figuring out the dynamics of the different characters and how they get along, and like all that stuff is hitting for me really well. On top of the fact that I think the systems are like pretty clean and well executed. So yeah, they've got a convert out of me. I'm definitely in. Like, I'm digging it. I fully expect myself to beat the game, and I think it'll be on my short list by the end of the year, unless something really changes between now and, you know, the next 50 hours. But I feel like the core gameplay loop is so strong that I have a hard time seeing, unless the story like totally goes off a cliff. I can't imagine myself like losing that steam with it right now.
Yeah, I'm glad you're liking it, because I was worried like how it would connect with you in the early moments, because I think like as you build through and you start to unlock some more and understand like the battle systems a lot more, I think it gets to that point where you're like, dang, this is like awesome. I'm so cool. I'm so good at fighting these things. And you just get like more and more powerful and more ingrained with like how everything works, and it just feels better. So like with these games, it's always such a slow start because there's so much to learn. You know, there's tutorials all over the place.
And the tutorial is slow. Like I'll give it that. Like I remember in the beginning hours where it's like, I know that this game has systems it hasn't told me about yet, and it's doing the whole, like, we're going to teach you about, like, one thing at a time. So it's like, the first fight, you can, like, only use auto attacks, right? And you have no abilities. And I'm sitting there, like, just swinging the sword for, like, 3 minutes, and I was like, there's no way that this is what combat is like, right? Like, you're boring me to teach me things. And it was effective, because I do think the tutorials are really good, and they're spread out far enough that you learn systems in a very kind of, like, piecemeal way, and I think it makes it easier to like not immediately feel overwhelmed, and there's like a million systems you need to understand. It's kind of like, all right, we're gonna drip feed this to you over, like, I'm still getting tutorials 10 hours in, right? And they're like, oh, here's a new thing now, we'll teach you it, here's a new thing. And that is working for me really well, but I definitely would caution anybody that, like, you're right, watch out for the first hour or so, because it is slow, you know, like, give it that time to like drip feed everything to you.
Yeah, and I would say, like, this game, more than any of the previous two, does this way more / kind of way more effectively. The first game, I felt like I didn't learn jack squat about how to fight or anything. Like, it just kind of came together all haphazardly, and then eventually I was like, oh, if I do that, that happens? Okay, now I get what I'm doing here. It doesn't teach you anything. The second game, it does, but you see every advice, every tip thing, every tutorial thing once and only once. There's no way to dig into some other menu about like how do I do this again? There's no way to look back at anything. So you kind of have to like take screenshots of everything as you go. But this one, just the fact that they have this whole tutorial section built out, like just like here are these practice battles where you can just like try out these things and learn how they work and all of that. I'm just like, man, if anybody's like really intimidated by the scale of this game and just like how big it is and how complex its like battle system is, 3 might be the place to start for you, because I think that it really breaks those down step by step.
It parses it down in a very, very like, here's how auto attacking works. Here's how activated abilities work. Here's how they interact with each other. Here's how you build your character. And it's like, I never feel like they're just sticking a bunch all at once, which is always like the quickest way that I'll be like, cool, skip, I'm not going to read any of this, right? Like, I'm not here to read 10 pages of tutorials and not remember how to do anything, right? Like, because of the way that they're teaching me, I learn a thing, I do it for a couple hours, then they teach me a new thing. And I think that's really, really clever. Like, it never feels like it's just like inundating you with text or information that you, or that like, you know, like so many games will give you a tutorial like too early, where they'll be like, oh, here's how like customizing things work, but you won't be able to do that for like 5 hours. And it's like, well, now I don't remember how to do it, right? Like, this is not useful to me. I think it communicates what it needs from you very, very cleanly and succinctly, and I appreciate that. I think it makes it a lot less like intimidating. Like, if you watch the direct and you're like, there's too much going on here, like it will parse it down for you in a way that will be valuable.
Yeah, so I'm not too far in. I'd say I've played like the first hour or two.
Okay.
And then I got distracted by the other game that came out, which we'll get to. But right away, I noticed that difference. I think I stopped where it was actually giving you a tutorial about like how quests work and everything, and I was like, wow. Not once has this been explained in the previous Xenoblade like quests at all. The thing that I found interesting though is where I get kind of sucked into the Xenoblade world is the world itself and like exploring it and everything. I think there was one mention about like secret areas. I don't know if you caught that like at the very beginning of the game.
Yes.
Pete.
Yeah.
But I just love scouring the place and trying to find any secret thing that's available to me. It's just because once you find those, you get actually like a big boost in experience points and stuff like that. So they make the exploration like worthwhile in that sense, where it's like, oh, I found this place and it's actually making me grow a level, which I really needed because I keep getting my butt kicked by these monsters over here.
Yeah, I like the way that it rewards you for things that aren't just grinding too. Like, you get the extra EXP and you can like level up your characters at camp, and like I've gained like 5 levels just by playing the game and interacting with the systems, and then being like, oh, okay, cool, I'm back at camp. Oh, I can auto level 5 levels up now. Like, that's awesome. Now I'm beating everything's ass in this section, so it's probably time for me to move on, you know? And like, it just feels so natural, you know, to just like dig in, explore a zone until you've seen everything, and then be like, all right, cool, check, move on. I like that, because it doesn't feel as like open world. It doesn't feel like I'm just being like dropped in a field and it's like, figure it out. It's very like, okay, here's your next goal, right? Like, work towards it at your pace. Like, are you having trouble with the monsters in this area? Maybe grind a little bit, maybe collect some items, maybe do a side quest. Like, and I feel like that it feels so much more inviting than like the whole, you know, it always gets attributed to Ubisoft, but everybody does it. The whole like, all right, you're in a map, here's a million things that you can do, go pick one. It's like very like, it feels so much more focused than that. You know, it feels a lot more linear than most open world games, which, you know, that's not everybody's bag, but I like that. I do not mind a more linear experience with open zones to explore and secrets to discover and like that kind of thing. I find that to be rewarding, you know?
Yeah, and I'd say it feels unique in that sense too, because like if you do want to just like pick and do whatever you want, like it's there for you. Like you can go off and do your own thing. But uh, I did run into while exploring the first little area, where you were talking about, you know, the first battle, it just like makes you auto attack, right? I started running around that area and I just hit like invisible wall where it was like clearly does not want you to go that
Oh my
direction.
god. Love
Yeah,
that.
yeah, so right away I was like, "Oh, okay, so this is, like, really wanting me to go and follow this path for now."
Yeah.
So you do hit those moments, but I think as the tutorials become further and further apart, you start to open it up a lot more and do get that open world feel that if that's what you're looking for, like, it's there, but if you're just looking for a wild anime story, then you're gonna get that too.
I like that the game very much presents an opportunity for you to be like, to main path it if that's what you're interested in doing, right? Because
Mhm,
like, so far I haven't really experienced that many side quests. Like, a lot of it has been kind of like, there are these like fetch quests where it'll be like people like have requests for you and you can like find items in the open world and just turn them in from a menu. You don't have to like go find an NPC. It's like very, very simple, and I like that because it's like, hey, cool, this is just a thing I can do as I'm moving on. If I want extra resources or extra experience, great, but like there's no pressure to do it. And like the other side quests I've experienced have mostly been tutorials of like, oh, do this and you'll unlock this new system, or you'll do this or you'll do that, whatever. And
mhm.
that I like that because like I do kind of want some more side quests, but I also appreciate that I don't feel like the game is like just inundating me with like boxes to check. Like, it's very much like kind of, I think, encouraging you to just like, hey, yeah, like let's move the story forward a little bit. I imagine there'll be a point where it opens up a little bit more, but
Mhm.
I'm digging how easy it is to just kind of like go from beat to beat whenever I feel ready to do that.
Yeah, yeah, and I know I'm the type of person that gets distracted by a lot of those things, so I
Yeah.
never complete these games in under 100 hours. So but I do know, like, I've seen people play through it, and they just, like, do all the story stuff, and they're beating it in, like, 50 hours, so, like, half the
Yeah.
time it takes me. And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I mean, that's a manageable RPG right there." Still on the long side, but, you know,
I
it's
was really
not
worried
100
about the length
hours.
of this game. I really was. And I already am like, nah, I can get through this. Like, I've put in 10 hours
Mhm,
already and I'm making good progress, right? And like, I also definitely get the impression that I'm over leveling a little bit. So I feel like I'm going to hit a point where it's like very easy to just be like, okay, bam, like let's railroad through a couple of these and hit a point
yeah,
where I can grind a little bit again and then move on. And we'll see what happens.
mhm.
But I'm really digging it. Literally, I have two gripes with it, and then we can move on. My one gripe is, and I know that you've commented on this, Chewy, like in the comparison between this and the past entries, which I'm interested to hear more about as you get deeper into it. Um, it looks bad in handheld. It runs okay. It doesn't have like the grinding frame rate stuff that I know you had expressed, but like it looks like
Mhm.
shit. Like, the game docked looks nice, but like in handheld it is very clearly, I think, 540p, and it just looks like dog water, man. Like, it's very just like fuzzy and it just not pretty. And like docked, it's a beautiful game. It's one of the best looking games on Switch, I think. The color
Yeah,
and everything is really, really nice. And it has
and
good
let me
art.
tell you, this is by far the best looking Xenoblade in
And
handheld.
I saw you
Eh, eh,
tweet about that, and you're like, I can't believe it looks this clean. And I was like, damn, these games must look
it was
awful.
bad. It was terrible in 2, and I mean, I played the 3DS version of the first one, so
Even worse.
it even worse. But yeah, that's part of the reason I haven't hopped in as much on it. I'm not currently home. I don't have a dock with me. I'm just playing handheld right
Hmm.
now, and so I'm like, I really want to see how pretty this game will look on my TV, on my monitors, all those places. It looks a million times better than the previous game in handheld. I will say that. Even like the previous game was so bad, like even the cutscenes look terrible. Like the pre-rendered cutscenes that happen every once in a while. This I was actually impressed with the intro. I was like, "Oh man, this is like this looks like the game on my TV. It's just like a little screen." So those parts of it are better, but yeah, I think overall I'm waiting to get back to a TV to play.
Yeah, I definitely, uh, I don't blame you for that one, because I think it's very much like it. I don't know. I think you can play it in handheld, but I definitely think that docked is the way to go. It's a much better experience,
Mhm.
in my humble estimation. And the only other thing about it that isn't really jiving with me is I have one critique with the battle system, which is I do not like how auto attacking works. The whole, like, you just have to stand next to your target and then they start auto-attacking. It's like, it feels like it needs a button. I want it to work the way that it works in, like, Dragon Age Origins or, like, World of Warcraft or something, where it's like, if I target an enemy and I don't do anything else, my character should run over and just start auto-attacking them. The fact that, like, I have to go and like, especially when you're engaged with multiple enemies, I've had multiple situations where I'm trying to target the enemy in front of me, and it's just, like, moving around to, like, there's a creature I'm not even engaged with, and it targets them instead, and just, like, all this shit, and it's like, I'm regularly wasting seconds trying to be like, okay, there's 8 characters on the screen all attacking, and then 3 enemies, and I'm targeting the enemy that's furthest away from me, and I want to target the one near me, and it's just, like, doing the micromanaging thing, like, to get everybody in the right position the first time is frustrating, specifically because of the way that auto attacks work. It's not a big deal, but it's like the one thing that feels clunky to me when everything else feels so smooth and snappy and it's all connected to one button and it's very easy to, like, know what you're doing and move between characters and whatever, right? Like, trying to get my character in the right position to auto attack is always the most frustrating part of the battle.
Yeah, and I think this part is the part I agree with you here, because it doesn't feel quite as smooth as it did in the second game. Auto attacking in the first game is like you're running around and the characters are auto attacking. They introduced, like, the stand still auto attacking in the second one, and it's felt smooth. Like, every weapon had a rhythm to it that you could, like, learn and follow, and it was kind of interesting. With this one, I'm like, I don't really quite feel the rhythm to this one. It just feels like they're randomly taking a jab here and there, and so it feels like that. But yeah, the positioning too is so crucial with some of the arts and stuff, and how you build all your big powerful attacks up, you know? So yeah, I'm excited to dig more into that and see how that changes from weapon to weapon. But as of right now, like, I totally get you. Like, I'm guessing you're mostly playing, at least using your playable character as what's the main guy's name that you start with?
Noah.
Noah. Are you using, like, his sword and stuff?
I've been switching it up. The game definitely
up.
encourages you to change the classes, and I've been basically just maxing out a class and then switching everybody at the same time. So I've actually been playing mostly as Mio, who is the leader of the other group, and just whatever thing I'm switching off on her I've been using. So, like, right now I'm using, like, the hammer that the other I can't remember her name, but the other girl from that group uses.
Tiny giant hammer girl.
Yeah, I can't remember her name. I'm like trying to get everyone's names down, and I remember all of Noah's crew because you spend more time with them in the beginning, but I don't remember Mio's 2 friends' names right now. But I'll get there. But yeah, I'm really enjoying each kit. Is really fun too. Like, all the classes are good. I think the gameplay it's really striking a chord with me for sure.
That's awesome.
But yeah, we'll talk more about it in the weeks to come. I definitely think it's going to be a game that is a topic of conversation here for a while. But I am very interested to hear from the two of you about the other game on our docket today, which is, of course, Digimon Survive. So this game, the context of it is very fascinating to me, and I'm really interested to hear you two talk about it, because I feel like we talked a little bit last week with, like, the Xenoblade, like, the reviews had dropped and there was buzz about it and everything, and at that time we had talked about how it's like Digimon Survive is out in a day as of the time of this recording. There was no pre-release review coverage. There's been very little marketing. I feel like all the conversation around this game is, like, word of mouth, and I've seen 2 predominant opinions emerge, which is there are a lot of people who, like, seem to like it and are praising it and are into the story and whatnot. Haven't heard a lot of talk about the gameplay. And then the other side of people, like, literally when I was trying to pull up a trailer to show off in a minute, the first thing I found was from a YouTuber who was like, this game lied to us, don't buy it, don't get scammed. And I've seen a lot of people with that energy of, like, they didn't really understand what it was going into it, and now they're mad. So with those, and I see your face, Sierra, I want to get you off the bench here. Those 2 are the 2 narratives I've seen emerge. I've still seen basically no coverage or review about it. So, like, I have no idea what is the temperature on this game, and I'm so fascinated. Because I'll tell you what, I was gonna buy it on release and try to get into it as well ahead of this episode, but I got dangerously into Multiverses, the Warner Brothers Smash clone thing.
Nice.
I'm going to talk all about that on the Flip Screen Games podcast this week or next.
Yeah.
I'm like way too obsessed with that game. It actually kicks ass, which is surprising, but it's cool. I really want to get you to play it with me, Sierra, because I know you're.
I know. Eventually, I'm very interested. I just haven't had time. So now we just gotta make the time.
Yeah, I mean, well, maybe we stream it or something, and we'll have to get in there. Because I'll tell you what, I'm a heck of a Superman main. It's coming together over there.
Nice.
It's coming together. So the two of you are both playing it. I want to know how far are both of you in, and I want to start with Sierra, and I want to ask you, how far in are you? How are you liking it so far? And is it living up to your expectation and like the hype that you had for it, having been waiting for it for so long and finally getting your hands on it? Like, are you feeling that it was worth the wait and you're getting that like sense of satisfaction, or are you not quite there with it yet?
So, the question of whether or not it was worth the wait is like, that answer for me is yet to be seen. I will tell you though, I'm enjoying it way more than I thought I was going to. I really thought that the tactical element was going to completely destroy the experience for me because I had no interest. Complete opposite. And it's just enough for me personally as like my first tactical RPG. And the other cool thing is that like assuages my stress when it comes to, new game genre I've never engaged with before. You can change the difficulty every single battle.
Nice.
It asks you,
That's good.
like, it asks you, do you want to play very easy mode, easy, medium, like normal, or hard? And so I could get my bearings in like easy mode, and then I could go up to normal if I wanted, if I felt like I was, getting the game, which I did. And I did get a little scared, so I switched back to easy, but it's fun. It is really fun. I don't know where these people are getting that we were lied to. I know there was little marketing, but if you're engaged actually with Digimon, you've been following this, you found out like 2 years ago, or at least a year ago, that this was going to be like a visual novel with like mostly visual novel and some battles. It's not going to be battle heavy. There's still a lot of battles if you want them. You can opt into that with the free battle feature that you get with every area you unlock. You can go, you can grind, level up if you want to, or you can just raw dog it and just like book straight through the story. But yeah, I love it. I wish I was playing it more. I wish that it.
I thought you were about to be like, I wish I was playing it right now. I don't even want to be talking to you two chuckle fucks about it. I want to go play the damn game.
No, because like I've been streaming. I started a Nuzlocke, and I do other things. Unfortunately, like working during the day. So I want so badly to sink more hours in because the story's really engaging. The story I'm like enjoying so much. It is also really messed up and like really dark. I apparently haven't even gotten to the really bad stuff.
I've heard that it like really pops off around chapter 5.
Yeah, her complete heel turn, and I'm only on part 2.
Okay. So
okay.
how long are the chapters roughly? Like you said you're on chapter 2. Is that 2 hours in? Is that an hour in?
An hour and a half.
Okay.
I like to dawdle around. I like to go do free battles so I can like level everybody
Okay,
up.
so you're taking your time and you're still that far in. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, so there's a complete heel turn. I don't want to say anything that like encroaches on spoiler territory.
Sure.
So what I'll say is that I am shocked at what is baked into the story,
Okay.
and then how much more you can affect by the choices you make in the game. I did catch on finally on how the evolution system works. So now that I realize, because I got an Agumon evolution I did not want, and I was like, why? Why did I get Greymon?
Are
And then
evolution-
Which one did
permanent?
you get? Which one did you get?
I got Tyrannomon.
Me too. Me too.
You did, because
Mhm.
Are they permanent once they digivolve? Is that their new form,
No,
or is it per
you
battle?
you can unlock different evolution lines.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think for the I guess main character Digimon, that's the case. Like they'll follow that evolution path, but you can get more Agumon in the future.
Mhm.
Okay.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I
Can you
figured out-
change what your main partner Digimon is, or is that's tied to
No.
the story, right?
That's tied.
Okay.
Yeah.
So let me ask this too. With the story and the way that it's broken up, is it like, because you said there's like a free battle mode, are you interacting with battles based on where you are in the story? Like, is there like at the end of this chapter there's a boss battle and that's tied to the story? Okay, all right. So are you
So-
progressing the story by completing battles, or is it more like you progress the story and then like battle
I'd say the
opportunities come
visual
up?
novel the visual novel aspect to it is what progresses the story.
Okay.
The battles are like you can battle. You can either like defeat Digimon to gain more experience points, or you can befriend them and get either have them join your party or get an item
Okay.
from them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much more interesting than I thought it was gonna be.
Is it like, this might help me establish like what the flow of it is. Chuy, is it like at all like Fire Emblem in the way of like you do a battle and then there's some visual novel stuff, and you do a battle and there's some visual novel stuff? Or is it not as like one to one like that? Is it more like
Yeah, I would say it is a lot more visual novel than
Okay.
It's more
Okay.
like you do a visual novel and then there's a battle.
Got it. Okay.
The-
All right.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
the
so
vast
it leans
majority of the
heavily into that.
experience is more the visual novel stuff than it is the gameplay stuff.
Right.
Mhm.
Okay.
But the
Yeah.
Is that
battles-
like why people are bent out of shape, or?
Yes. Yeah, they
I
don't
would
want to
say
read.
so, yeah. And I'll say it also like the prologue is a lot of setup. Like it's all dialogue. There's like one little tutorial battle thing and then a lot more visual novel before you actually get into like some sort of battle in the game.
Right.
But like right after that, like after the prologue stuff, it's just like you can tell how much darker this game is. Sierra, I'm telling you right now, part 3, big stuff's gonna happen for you. Part
Ready?
5, like Pete said too, big stuff's gonna happen there again.
How
So,
far in are you, Chuy? What chapter are you on?
I'm on part 6 right now, which I think
Okay.
is about halfway.
Yeah, I heard it's 12, I think.
Yeah,
So is the
And
game not that long then?
I'd say I've put a lot of time into it.
Okay.
Like the visual novel stuff, it's pretty interactive. There's a lot of talking that you have to do with your characters to like raise their affinity, and there's all these different paths that there's a karma system essentially where you can either do moral, wrathful, or harmony, and and I think that's probably going to go toward like some branching paths at the end. Probably 3 different endings that you can get depending on how you play it out. But with every character, you have to build their affinity up with them. It powers up how strong their effects and are on your Digimon and like how well they work together and everything in the battle. So it does have an effect there.
Okay.
And then there's just tons of like little hidden items that you can get throughout I guess each visual novel section too. Some secret books that you can collect too that have even more to read. Like there is a lot of lore packed into this.
All right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm into that. So I'm looking at a article from a website that I've never heard of, so grain of salt, called The Nerd Stash, which is saying that it'll apparently take 25 to 30 hours to run through all 12 chapters on like a standard difficulty run.
I believe that.
Developer said at Digimon Con 2022, and this is from an article from Gamatsu, saying that it should be about 40 hours per route, and that's depending on difficulty and blah, 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 and it would be about 80 to 100 hours to complete all of the routes.
Mhm. And I believe that.
That's probably
'cause
like dev math too, right? Like you say 40
How
hours and it's
many are there?
probably
So there
really
are
there's 3.
definitively 3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there's 3 routes, yeah.
Morality, harmony, and rage is what it says here.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely changed it in the game. It's not rage in the
It's
game,
like
but maybe like
wrathful.
it's the
It could just be because it's a translation. I'm assuming he
virus.
said this in Japanese and then it was
Mm.
translated to English. So rage, wrathful, that feels like a easy translation error, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm digging through it, and as far as like the battles go, the free battles, like they pop up often enough where you can spend a lot of time on the battles and everything. And honestly, I do because I really like. I, I guess I don't know how much time you spent on like Shin Megami Tensei, and I don't know if this works the same in like Persona, but every Digimon will like ask you something, and you have to answer their questions
Yeah,
correctly.
that's
So they'll
exactly how
start
it
to be
works
your
in
friend.
Persona. Yeah.
Yeah. So that same system is there. So you have to learn all these answers to recruit the Digimon and stuff. And then even then, I got so mad. I ran into a Patamon kind of early on, and I was just like, "Oh my goodness!" I'm going through and I'm answering the questions. I managed to get like it to like me enough so I could be like, "Join my team," and then it didn't join my team after that because there's like a certain percentage still of a success rate with that, and so I was so mad. I was
That's
just like, "What?"
frustrating.
I am so sorry. I would have screamed if I ran into Patamon. Oh my god.
I have them now, so
I gotta
you'll
s-
run into a lot more of them.
I gotta say,
later.
so I pulled up the trailer again so I could get some B-roll here because we were getting into spoiler territory in the footage I had playing. There's like multiple YouTube videos of people being like, "Don't get scammed. Oh, it's the worst characters." It's like, why do people have an axe to grind about this game? All right, if you hate visual novels,
Right.
just say it, okay?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Fuck
They
that.
they do because
Fuck that,
this
dude.
honestly feels like just a really intense season of Digimon.
I'll tell you
for
what.
me.
That's what I was gonna say.
This is making me angry because I was ready to pick it up and I didn't because I got distracted. And now I'm like, you know what? I'm going to buy this game full price and evangelize it because I'm sick of this shit. All right. I'm about to just pull this up on the Steam Deck right now.
There are just so many nice touches in the game, in the lore. The art is beautiful.
The art, oh,
So and the
It's
camera
really well
movement-
animated. Yeah.
Yeah, like it is. It really is a love letter to Digimon fans who have been around since the beginning, since Tamers. Like
mhm.
so beautiful in full circle when when the prologue starts to come to an end and it begins to snow. That is
Uh-huh.
when the merging of the real world and the digital world are about to happen, and it's like shit's about to go down. Let's go, and then it's when their adventure begins, and that's always like such a sentimental, emotional trope for me in Digimon. I don't know. It reminds me of Adventure
Mhm.
1. Um, you
Yeah, it
know,
takes you right back there.
yeah,
I love
exactly.
that.
Mhm.
And yeah, just the Digimon as characters, they're not just and this is always what I harken back to when people try to do the whole Digimon versus Pokemon thing. Digimon have a little more agency in these stories.
Digimon
And
have a
Yeah,
ton
they don't
of
feel like
agency.
pets.
They're characters.
Like
they're
they,
not-
like that's I feel like the primary difference, right? Is like Digimon don't feel
Yeah.
like pets; they feel like partners.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they truly are partners.
So
Mhm.
it's just it is really good. I think it was worth the $60. I think there's probably going to be a lot of replay value due to the multiple storylines, but there's also a lot to do. You're not just reading, and even if you're just reading, if you're a Digimon fan, this is a very well written story that
Mhm.
I think is true to form for you know, I don't know. It's just so good.
How are you gonna be a JRPG fan and complain about reading?
Yeah,
'Cause they're
true.
probably posers.
I'm just saying. It's like, did you not go into this game expecting it to be long and dialogue heavy? Because that's exactly
Mhm.
what I expected, right? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I will say, I think it might have been the end of part 1, but there's, like, an image at the end of one of them, and you're just like, "Oh, man, that was scary." And I think that's, like, the moment where you're like, "Okay, the prologue, I get it. It's the stuff that had to happen to get the kids there." But
Yeah.
like once part one ends and you're just like, oh man, this is dark. Like this feels like it was
All right.
made for Digimon fans who are our age now and just wanted something like a little bit older, a little bit more mature.
All right. Cool.
The kids in the school
And
scared
it's
the
heavy.
shit out of me.
Yeah.
I
That
was like,
sounds good.
"Close your
I'm
butt."
into that. All right. You both got me
It-
excited. I'm
Cool.
that has me a little bit more activated. So I've
Yeah.
got two more questions I want to ask on Digimon Survive before we move on to the Pokemon side of the fence. Why the fuck did they send this game out to die? This game has been in development
I
for
know.
like 5 years or whatever. This came out with like
Mhm.
zero marketing. There's like no advanced reviews. It came out on the same day as Xenoblade Chronicles 3, which has been pretty heavily marketed for a JRPG.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck? Like, why did they do this way?
I don't know.
It
I
could have
think
come out at any other time.
this is kind of like a Bandai Namco problem slash thing. If you've ever started one of their games, there's that whole every single one of their games. It's like here's all of this thing to read and the terms of agreement, and they're just so protective of their IP in a way that like even goes beyond Nintendo's. People think of Nintendo and they're like, oh yeah, those ninjas are gonna get you, but like Bandai Namco's stuff is just like so every single time you open one of their games, you're agreeing to some user agreement thing, right? And then the only thing I really heard is that they really just didn't want this story spoiled because, and I think that's like, it is primarily a visual novel. I think that's like
Yeah.
what they were going for with the game.
People can
And
review a
there's
game without spoiling it, though.
Yeah.
yeah,
Right,
yeah,
like-
they really can. They can.
You could have not
But
given
I
it to
don't-
like
I don't know.
streamers and been like, okay, whatever. Like, at least let like, the IGNs and whomevers of the world review the game so that when you're like, is this game any good? It comes up on Metacritic. It currently still has 0 reviews on Metacritic from a actual legit.
Oh my god.
It's nuts. There's like, it doesn't have
Yeah.
a number yet.
Yeah, and it's because it came out like Friday. I think review codes literally went out release day for it, maybe the day after. But that's when they went out to people, and so
And so many of those
it's
people
pretty
are-
long. It's pretty long. I will say, like, if you're being thorough with the game, if you're reading it through, if you're doing as much to raise your affinity with the characters, like, it's going to take a good while to get through it. Because I'd say I've probably played like 20 hours, and I'm on 6. So
All right.
yeah, I'm probably going to hit that like 40-hour point by the end of that story. So
Okay. All right. So I've got
it's long.
2 questions to close it out here then. Number 1 is, how do you think this is going to play out for this game? Like, do you think this game is going to find the audience it needs to, or has this messy release like made it a game that's going to be like a forgotten gem kind of thing?
Man, I hope it finds the people.
Yeah, because Digimon, like a joke that is said to me a lot is like, you are the only Digimon fan I know. There's only one Digimon fan in existence. And I think that is just like patently not true. Simu Liu tweeted about Digimon. Okay, there's like a mainstream
I
awareness
saw.
of this franchise, but like throughout the years they've just fumbled the bag every single time they had the potential to really make something of it, like. And I think that they really should have gone in like guns blazing, like marketing before the game dropped, because like to build up hype, get a lot of people pre-ordering the game, because what happens when like people play it and they just kind of have like lukewarm feelings about it, like then you're just gonna hear a sea of opinions that are just not like unanimously like this is a good game, whereas like you could have done a lot more marketing, advertising.
But like just putting it in the
Like-
hands of the right people, right? Like of Digimon
Exactly.
fans, like of people who are going to
Mhm.
evangelize the game and tell people to go pick it up. And
Right,
I feel like it
no
doesn't
one-
have that groundswell around it that it needs.
Yeah, no one
Yeah.
influential in the game space has said anything about Survive. So now, yes, it's going to probably die.
I hope, yeah, and I hope it does get there, because for me, and probably you too, Sierra, being Digimon fans, it feels like just a really good season of Digimon. that you can enjoy. The art, fantastic. Digimon's killing it with the art these days. Like the new Digimon cards have some amazing artwork where I'm just like, man, Pokemon, you gotta do something. Step it up a little bit here. The artwork's great, and then the story just feels like it was really built out for fans like us, who have been around for a long time and wanted something a little bit more of a grown-up Digimon. So
I don't know. I really wanted this to be the renaissance for Digimon. You have this game, and then you have Digimon Ghost Game, the newer anime that's streaming on Crunchyroll right now. Really good. It is really good.
I need to start it.
Anyone listening, if you haven't watched it yet, go watch it. It's great. It's like, oh my god, it's so interesting. Also, dark vibes. People die. Like
yeah.
Like it's very reminiscent of Tamers, and it's well written.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I've been talking to my friend while playing Survive, and he's like, dude, you should just go start watching Ghost Game. And I'm like, dude, I'm doing that right after I beat this.
So yeah, I feel like bags are being fumbled, and they don't even know how to market their own IP. I'm sure there's people internally at Digimon who are like screaming into their pillows, like
for all this work.
Yeah, and like,
it's a lot of work.
All right.
Yeah.
So final points on this before we move on to Pokemon, right? So I want to go back because it's two questions. One for me. After this conversation, am I more excited to buy this game? Yes. Sierra, how do you feel about Xenoblade now that we talked about it? More excited, same amount.
Oh my god! I was wondering why you hadn't asked me that after the Xenoblade segment.
The pin was left. Now it's here. I'm pulling it out.
That's crazy. Okay. I am definitely not like feeling as much urgency to pick up Xenoblade as I have needing to finish like Digimon Survive right now.
I hear that.
But like hearing your experiences with the game, especially as someone who's never played Xenoblade before, like Breath of the Wild was my first action RPG. Like I'm glad to hear that it's not super intimidating to start.
I think you could definitely get into it.
Yeah, and like I've watched the gameplay here and there from different streamers, and it looks really fun, and I like the characters. I will get it. It's not as like much of a rush right now.
I get that.
But I'm still very into it.
I'm also an easy mark, right? If you're like, oh, this game's good, I'm like, I gotta play it. All right, let's go. Swipe that card, baby. Let's go. All right, so let's jump into the main event here. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet have a brand new trailer. We learned a bunch of new information, including the name of our new region, the Palladia region. We got a full map looking at it. It's looking pretty good. I think it's got a pretty surprising amount of biodiversity, which I'm into. I think just like on a general, like judging the graphics standpoint, I think it looks pretty sharp. I think this is definitely the sharpest looking 3D Pokemon game so far. I think it definitely is a sizable improvement on what they had to offer with Legends Arceus, like on a visual level, right? That game was very like gray and brown and splotchy, and I think there's some rough edges here. There's stuff that doesn't look crystal clear, but I think it looks a lot sharper. I think the models look a lot better. The character models look a lot better. But I think overall the thing that stuck out to me the most, before I kick it to you two, is just like the way they talked about the story. Right, we knew that there was going to be like the non-linear elements to like the gym progression and stuff, but like they teased that there is they said 3 grand stories await you, and like one of which is the gym challenge, and then there are 2 others, and they tease that you can do them in any order that you want, in terms of like what those other things are. So like the idea of like being able to like authentically explore this world and kind of discover things at your own pace, and that like as we're reviewing it, right, that like we could all sit down and have the same kind of impressions discussion that we just had about those other 2 games and be seemingly in totally different spots of the map, having a totally different experience. That is really exciting and promising to me. I think regardless of how I feel about anything else, hearing that, I'm like, that is what I've been waiting for, and I'm very interested to see how that plays out. But for the two of you, like, what was the highlight? Like, what was the thing that stood out to you the most of what we were shown today?
Trying to decipher how the gym challenge is going to work.
Yeah,
Honestly.
I saw you point out on Twitter that in the gym battle that they showed, the enemy Pokemon doesn't have a level. And yeah, go ahead.
No, so weird because like in every Pokemon trailer you've ever seen like they've got the name at the top, HP bar, level, gender, status, condition, etc.
The head,
the name and the HP bar. I know that it's only August, but that seemed intentional.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it was either that definitely means something, or it was them trying to obscure something, right? Like it either means that there's level scaling and it's different depending on where you are in the game, and they didn't want to show you that, right? They don't want to like give you a clue that, oh, this gym leader has this Pokemon at this level, so that means something, right? Like, and they wanted to hide that from us, or that it just doesn't work in the way that we think it does, and that like they are static levels, and I could go to a gym leader and be like, I'm not strong enough, and I get my teeth kicked in, and they don't want to let us know that part either. Like, it could easily be either or. But that was a really good catch on your part. I didn't notice that the first time, and super interesting. It raises a lot of questions.
My first impression was I saw Go-Goat, so I'm happy.
You're like, my boy, he's back.
I didn't see it.
Yeah, Go-Goat is back. Oh, but I guess even outside of that, it really interests me. Like the whole first part of the trailer just shows like clumps of the same Pokemon. So I'm kind of wondering if that's how we're gonna like encounter them while we explore. Like, is there just gonna be like little herds here and there?
Yeah, which is similar.
Kind of like the outbreaks in what's it called?
Legends
Arceus, right? Yeah. So yeah, I'm kind of wondering how we'll go about that, but I can tell you right now what the 3 stories are. They didn't have to say it.
All right, hit us.
The first one, gym battles. Second one, Pokedex research, especially into the what do they call it? The new gimmick, the crystal rock thing.
Terrastalize or something.
Terrastalize, I think.
Terrastalize, right? So that's the other one. The third one is obviously this guy who's this like tech guy giving the lecture is evil, and you got to take him down.
Interesting. I could see that one. I don't think the Pokedex will be one of the 3. I think it'll be something else.
I think it will.
Because they talked about completing the Pokedex as its own thing, and I get the impression that
it'll be the research into the Terrastalize thing, specifically.
Okay. I could see that. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
The professor research. But I could also see that's like mixed in as like the evil guys trying to
that could all be one thing.
Power.
Yeah. Like that could all be one story, and then there could be another third one that we're not. Maybe like something connected to like a Team Rocket equivalent or something like that, where some criminals show up and do some criminal shit, and you got to stop them.
Yeah, I don't think we'll be too surprised at what the stories are in a Pokemon game.
No, probably not.
That's just my guess here.
The fact that they are touting that as a feature is something that I am excited by, where it's like, even if the stories themselves are fairly predictable, it's like, oh, this is a level of effort for that I feel like we have not seen in a long time.
Never. Oh my God.
Because I do. What were you gonna say?
No, I was just memeing. I was like, they said we heard you talking shit, so much shit.
Yeah, I think the thing is like with Gen 8 Sword and Shield, I just felt like it was such a bummer with the story being like mixed in kind of with the gym like way too late, like the gym stuff. Like you're literally at the end of your major accomplishment, having gotten all the badges, you're fighting in the the league, I guess, at the very end. And then just like right in the middle, they're like, oh wait, you got to go solve this problem right now.
Yeah.
I was just like, what is going on here? Like, can I just let me play the game?
I want to have it
You know?
be more akin to like how it felt in like I really like that in like Gen 2 where like you hit the point where you're like midway through the game and the whole like thing in Goldenrod happens and you've got to go deal with Team
Yeah.
Rocket and it's like I like it when the big story beats that aren't connected to the gym progression whatever are like a thing that breaks up the game and the story rather than like having it just be kind of like you know, oh, it's the thing that happens at the end, right? Like, and I feel like that's kind of how it's gotten.
Yeah.
Because like you even think about like with the whole Goldenrod thing, right? Like that's where it starts, but then you've got to go and like do all the stuff with Lance, and you go to their secret hideout, and like there's all these beats that take you back around the map and like have you kind of recontextualize spaces, and like I appreciate that. You know, I think. I want to see them kind of like experiment with that again more. And like, again, it adds depth to the world, right? Like it's like you have an idea of like what people are up to and what they're doing. And like, I want more of that and not just like checking boxes of going through the gym challenge. And then, oh yeah, the thing happens with the legendaries and go deal with that.
One thing they didn't really mention that I feel is kind of necessary, I guess it doesn't need to be necessary, but I do like when they do this. But a lot of open world games just have all these side quests and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I want to see the towns get built out a little bit more, some characters like asking for your help.
There's
and
definitely
here
a
and there.
chance that those things will exist and they just haven't told us about them yet, you know?
Yeah.
Right.
I feel
Yeah.
like I'd be pretty surprised if, because that was a big thing in Arceus too, right? There was like a lot of side quests and like,
Yeah, they
so and
played
so
with it
needs
there.
a thing for me or whatever, right? Like, I hope that we'll have more of that.
Yeah.
Speaking of stuff that we saw in Legends Arceus, we also got the confirmation that the legendary Pokemon Koraidon and Miraidon are like basically partner Pokemon for you from the beginning, and they do
Crazy.
all of the ride stuff like out the gate. So like they showed you like riding around on their back like a motorcycle. Sometimes they can fly. There's like a climbing and all that kind of stuff. Gonna be interesting to see how that plays out. Like story wise, that seems weird, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the other story, how to actually get them to be usable in battle or something.
I was
Because they'll
thinking
probably
Yeah.
same thing.
Yeah,
You
we're in
can't
the
use
same place.
Can't use them in battle from the jump, but they'll join you on your journey, and over time, you earn their respect and trust as a trainer.
That makes sense to me. I think something like that will probably end up happening, and there'll be like a point in the story where it's like they back you up and help you fight and everything because you've earned their respect or whatever. That makes sense to me. The other big thing that we got to look at was we like talked about it a minute ago is the whole new gimmick, right? That's replacing Gigantamax this time around. And it's this kind of like
rebranding it basically.
Yeah, well, it is different, right? Like it's called terrestrial forms, right? And it's basically you cover your Pokemon in what did you say? Just the Servati crystal, like
crystals. And
Yeah.
their hats.
it's very much that energy. They get weird
I
hats
hate
and they
it.
shine like gems. And I mean, visually I don't care for it. It very much reminds me of how I felt about Gigantamax, where I'm
Right.
like, dog, we have jumped the shark. Like this is goofy as shit. Like, but whatever. This is the thing we got to deal with now. So I think visually it's dumb. I'm not a fan of it. But I do think that the impacts it has on battle are pretty interesting.
Yes.
So the main thing that it does is it makes moves stronger. So it's like very similar to Gigantamax or any of the other stuff that we've seen before, where it's like, all right, cool. It's like it's basically a boost mode for your Pokemon, and they hit harder, they defend better, whatever, right? Main thing being that they hit harder. The thing that's interesting is there are some where they will get a type change based on their terrestrial evolution. And they also called out that there are like quote unquote rare Terra types. So like the example that they provided was there's a pre-order bonus that you can get where you'll get a special Pikachu who is literally the flying Pikachu from like way back in the day with the balloons and everything. Nice little nod to that Pokemon trading card game art from like way back in the day.
Yeah.
And I guess the intro to Yellow version as well. But so that Pikachu will be flying type when it Terra transforms, whatever the fuck the name of it is. The other example that they gave was that there are Eevee, right? And the quote-unquote normal Terra type for an Eevee is to just be normal. But they showed that there are, like, the rare Terra types that you can unlock that are, like, a grass one or a water one. So I like the way that adds to the strategy of the game, right? And it does make prediction harder and competitive, where, like, okay, I'm playing against somebody who's using an Eevee, right? And it's like, all right, well, is this, like, are they going to Terra Evolve and be normal or water or grass? And, like, it does really deepen the gameplay in an interesting way. And I don't know how that's going to ultimately play out. We'll have to see. But you can definitely see the ways in which that would impact competitive in an interesting way of, like, you know, if I've got, you know, like, maybe I saw somebody tweet about this who's, like, a professional player who was saying, like, imagine, like, you could use this and, like, have your Gyarados Dragon Dance and evolve to a ground type so that nobody can hit you with an electric move, and you got, like, a free boost, and it's got Moxie, and then all of a sudden you've got this Gyarados that somebody needs to switch into that's been boosted twice, and if they get killed by that attack, they get boosted again. And, like, there's all these interesting ways that could really, really dynamically impact sweeping, which I think is pretty cool. And it could also give you some interesting defensive responses where it's like, oh, do I want to switch this Pokemon's type now, or do I want to try to bait them and do it later? Like, some interesting stuff there. So I'm with people that, like, it looks fucking goofy, but I'm interested in it in a mechanical way.
I like how you explained it, but I'm also going to say I just watched that little part where they get crystally and shiny and stuff. Forget it. I like it. I like it way better than them just going giant.
I think it's
giant.
I think they improved on the giant with Arceus, where you can just find those big boys out there.
Sure.
I think that was good. It wasn't over the top to me. I thought it was just awesome. But no, I'm into the crystals now.
I'm back. I'm back in. I like the Servati Pokemon crystals.
I'm ready. I'm ready for this Pokemon.
All right.
I mean, and the fact that we get Digimon in this game that transform into bikes. And...
yeah, that's true.
You two
I'm all about
make your Pokemon a Hallmark collectible.
Yes.
Look, you were saying they got to find a way to sell it to old people now. Now that we're getting old.
That's what told me. I want an ornament of that balloon Pikachu they showed at the end. I want that ornament.
I just what if they had giant crystal arms instead, or like jacked legs? I think that would look so much better than like
the hats.
I hate that.
Their little hats.
Hat aspect makes me so angry. Yeah,
they're bringing hats back. Hats came back. The kids are into them.
Hat economy, you know? It's TF2 all over again. Yeah, so I mean, we'll see on that one, but it's interesting. I think just from a purely gameplay perspective, I'm into that.
I agree. The type changing thing is cool as
potentially
shit.
Very cool. Yeah. And then to build on that, they talked more about the multiplayer stuff, and there are these like union circles that'll be out in the map that you can go, and like that will be where you get your friends to drop in. We already knew you can play with up to 4 people. They said that you can, quote unquote, enjoy all the region has to offer. So it seems as if the game is fully playable co-op, which is interesting. The big thing that they talked about was the terror raids. So they are basically bringing back and modifying raids from Sword and Shield, where there are these terror raids where you'll be able to find, you'll be more statistically likely to find Pokemon with the odd terra, the rare quote unquote terra types. So that's pretty cool. They said that they've changed it up so it won't be as turn based anymore, where you'll be able to attack and heal freely without waiting for your other players to take turns. I don't understand how that's going to work, but I guess we'll see.
I missed that.
They didn't explain it, and then we'll all be able to catch it when it's done. So it seems like an evolution of the raids that we already knew. That's what they claim, right? I guess we'll see.
So another cool thing that could happen is there's a multiplayer story. Because they did show off the multiplayer a lot more in this one. And I was like, okay, yeah, this is cool. It seems like we can just go off and explore this place together, have a good time. And if they do like quests with people together, that'd be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
And I guess the raids are kind of that. Like they could easily throw in like special quests throughout the the years and stuff, like the months and years when
Yeah,
it's
right. Like
out.
this Pokemon's going to be more likely to drop right now. Like basically what they do in Pokemon Go, right?
Yeah, they do it. Yeah, they do it in Pokemon Go. They kind of did it, for Sword and Shield and stuff. But this
With the
looks just like
specific
overall
legendaries.
cooler.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I forgot about that. Yeah,
hmm
I like
This
that.
looks overall cooler because we're all in the same place together exploring.
It also
and
looks
so
like it
it'll feel-
works, so that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Because it didn't work very well in the last game.
No.
I remember we were trying to stream that once, and AJ and I think spent like 15 minutes trying to get in a party together, and we're just like, okay, I guess this isn't gonna work. So I
Such a
like
pain.
that. It definitely seems like it's more seamless, but I mean, I guess we'll see what it actually looks like in practice. Couple other small notes. They showed off a scene of you walking around a town with your starter following you. So Pokemon following you while walking is back. It'll be interesting to see how much of the time you're actually walking, though, considering you can like ride a motorcycle everywhere. But we'll see what happens there. I think the other two things that really stuck out to me were there seemed to be a really good mix of Pokemon. There was a lot of Pokemon they showed off. Bunch of new ones from the last trailer, and it's like a good mix of different generations. Lots of favorites popping up. Lots of new animations
Gen 6
too.
Pokemon. And some Gen 6 Pokemon are coming back.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
Go-Go, I said right at the beginning, Electros I saw there
Yep.
too.
Yeah, some good
I
ones.
love those. I think the strong point of Gen 6, as much as people hate it, I think the Pokemon design
That dex
really
is
good.
fire. Yeah, it's a great
Yeah.
dex, that's for sure.
Mhm.
And lots of new animations. Like it looked like there were a lot of unique animations for some of the new species and stuff like that, which I liked. It just feels like the Pokemon are getting more and more sophisticated in the overworld, which is something I'm really thankful for.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then we got to look at some new Pokemon. There's a new version of Wooper who is a poison type. Quagsire is one of my favorite Pokemon of all time, so I'm very, very hype about that. Fido, which is a bread dog. Love him. We already got Lechonk, and we got a second Pokemon that we must protect at all costs. So
Yeah.
this is shaping up to be a great generation here. And then we got Setitan, who's like a big icy boy that one of the gym leaders was using. They seem to tease that the Pokedex was bigger than in previous games. They seem to imply that from some of the language and also just showing off a shitload of Pokemon. And then we got looked at some characters who are like going to be the supporting cast. There's the Clavel is the guy who Chewy thinks is evil. He's the head of the school. You've got Jacques,
He is evil.
who's
Come
your
on.
homeroom teacher. You've got Nimona, who's your battle-loving friend, I guess your rival. Arvin, who's an upperclassman and a great cook. And then Penny, who's a shy student in your grade. And then they showed off like a bunch of the gym leaders and stuff. That's interesting to me. I don't know if this is one of those things where they're showing off these characters and they're going to be the equivalent of the characters in like X and Y, where it's like they're the actual characters who talk and you're their mute friend who walks around with them, or if they're teasing these characters because there is going to be a more story-centric, story that they've teased now and talked about a million times. So it's like, is that part of it? Are these going to be major players? Like, are they going to play out in like the story around the school and the treasure hunt and all that stuff? Like, are these going to be the kids that team up with you and you go fight the dean? I don't know. Lots of questions to be answered, but again, showing that focus on that is something that it feels new and unique, right? Compared to
Yeah.
what we've seen in the past. So I'm into that.
Do you guys think there's gonna be voice acting or still no?
No.
I don't know. I'm gonna guess no, but I thought it was interesting that like the whole premise of the
Yeah.
thing
the
was a
intro.
voiceover for the dean character talking about
Yeah.
the school year and everything. So it's like could be, but I don't think so.
With the exception of the dean, it is dumb that everyone is hot. Why is everyone
Yeah.
so hot?
Counterpoint, Sierra. No, it's great that everybody is hot. Everyone should be hot all the time in everything.
I said why. I'm not just like
Look, I'm just saying if your
Yeah.
game doesn't produce characters that people want to cosplay and bang, then I just feel like you're failing at marketing, right? Like, I don't know. Worked for Capcom.
It's true. Those are the facts.
But I'll say this. I believe it was last week. Trendy Brendy wrote in and asked how many trailers were we going to see. This one gave us a lot of information. If this is how much info they're giving us, I think give us one more and then fuck off. And
I was literally looking at the playlist for all of the past Sword and Shield trailers last night. I wish I put it. I think we got a lot leading up to Sword and Shield. I think we got, because as the games started
Mhm.
to get closer, they were just like
They ramp up, yeah.
Yeah.
every week, just like a little bit of something.
With
And then
Arceus, they didn't do that though, which is very. It's
no,
like,
they did not.
what are we gonna get? Is it gonna be like 1 or 2 trailers again, or is it gonna be like we get a month out and they're just putting stuff up on Twitter every day again?
Yeah,
I don't
feel
know.
like that's what we're gonna get, because I feel like they could do that, and there's still so much to the game left
Sure.
to discover for yourself. Like, there's just so much that will need to be explained and contextualized.
Yeah, I mean, especially considering that like seemingly there's 2 stories that they're just not gonna tell us about. Like, there should
Yeah,
be
right?
Great.
there
Leave
should
it
be
that
enough
way.
question
Leave it that way.
marks. I think. Yeah, I'm with you. I honestly don't really want any more information. Like, I think at this point I'm kind of in. If they want to give me one more trailer and like answer some of the big questions I still have left, like how does catching Pokemon in the overworld work, or is the Arceus thing?
I
Is it
know.
not? I don't know, but
I hope it is.
I hope it is. We still haven't seen anything that directly contradicts that idea, but we also haven't gotten a confirmation of it, so I'm worried about that.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like, it would be so crazy if you were like, all right, so we're gonna like test all these like cool like terrain exploring features with Arceus, and then the catch mechanic. We're gonna bring over the terrain stuff, but not the catch.
Yeah, wouldn't that be
even though
fucking weird?
Everyone loved that.
I just
Yeah.
feel like I don't
Yeah.
know. It's one of those things where like I really could see it going either way, and I'm gonna be really disappointed if it's not there. But if it is,
It's going to be their awkward step back between games.
I'm worried that you're right. But if it's not, I feel like this game really has some juice, and I'm I'm feeling the way I felt about Arceus after we got the second trailer, where I'm like, oh, this actually looks great, and if this game is as good as Arceus, I'm gonna be through the roof because I loved that game. I thought that game whipped.
Yeah.
So we all
What
did.
do you guys think about the UI for Battle? Like, how the way it looks on the screen?
I gotta be honest with you. I did not even pay attention to it. I couldn't even like. Now that you're asking me, I don't remember what it looked like.
I hate it.
It's
think
weird?
It's like a regression in like the really cool menu designs they've had in the past, even in 2D games. I hate it.
That's too bad. Yeah, I haven't noticed it too much, but I keep watching this thing and I'm just like, they packed in some awesome Pokemon into this world. Like, this region has great Pokemon, and it looks like every gen is being well represented here instead of just like, leaning way too heavily into first gen, which is often a problem they have. So I'm just like, yes, we're seeing first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. There's too many now. There's too many gens.
I'm also very interested to see like what what number of Pokemon are new, because it feels like they're making that less and less every generation, and I'm not against that. I think that's okay.
Same.
Yeah.
But I wonder, like, are we gonna get 100? Are we gonna get 50? Are we gonna get 25? Like, I don't know. I don't think it has to be that many, right? Like, Arceus had like 10, maybe, and like a little bit different. But
like we were saying earlier, like I think Gen 6 had the fewest amount of like new Pokemon.
It was
that
a
were
small
added.
number, yeah.
But it was a great roster. I thought they did great with the designs and stuff. So as long as they're just focusing in on those designs. Okay, so I'm looking. I just found like one shot of the UI because I was like, I have to dig through this. I haven't seen any of them. I did see one fight against a Lechonk that's like level 2, and it seems like they're trying a mix of what we saw in Arceus, but like a little bit more updated, where I think the Arceus one, what often happened with the UI elements was just like they would completely, at least like any info on the Pokemon, it would be like kind of off the screen if you're not looking directly at the Pokemon, This one, it seems like it maybe it has more of a fixed screen setup like other older Pokemon games, but the UI just like it visually is not there until that attack like lands. So I see it like pop up and it's like, oh, here's this level 2 Lechonk, followed by the little HP bar thing.
Interesting.
So that's what I'm looking at. Yeah. Kind of interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope it's clean, whatever it is, but yeah, I haven't seen too much else.
It's got to be gaudy and ugly, just like the crystals.
Yeah, I'm just being a shallow guy. I think it's ugly.
I mean, it does look pretty simple. I got a better picture here for you both. Let me share it into this chat. Here you go. just bottom
Nope.
right corner is the attacks, and I think that's the struggle between like. I don't know if Pokemon's quite figured out how they want these elements to appear on a single screen again, because we had all
Right.
those DS and 3DS games, you know?
Yeah, and it's like it looks very simple, like it's very basic, and like maybe they're trying to like do that to minimize how much shit is on the screen, and I don't know. It's an interesting question, but I guess we'll see, right? Because there's also the possibility that that's not what it'll look like at launch, right?
Yeah,
They had the
yeah.
big like this is not the final version of the game thing, so that could also change. I guess we'll see. But either way, I walked away from this trailer feeling overtly positive. A lot of my caution, as I can feel it kind of disappearing a little bit, and I'm more getting on the side of like I think I'm actually just excited for this now, which
Yeah.
I didn't feel that way before this. I really didn't. Like, not that I was down on it, but more like I just played a Pokemon game that I loved 7 months ago. Do I need another one? And like,
Right.
the answer is still probably no, but also like, hey, whatever. If it's good, I'll bite on it. We all know that,
That's what
right?
I'm
Like,
saying. If
that's
it's good.
I'm a Pokemon fan, so I'm gonna come through.
You know what? The more I see it, the more I want my Pokemon to be wearing these crystal hats. I'm into it now.
All right, well, I think we'll leave it there for today. Jam-packed episode, everybody. Great work all around. Claps, golf claps to everybody. Good work. Thank you all for tuning in for episode 50 of Nintendo Noise. Thank you so much for your support over these past 50 weeks. Very excited to hit this milestone for all y'all. Very excited to come back with our 1-year anniversary next week. Remember to write into the Flip Screen Games podcast with all of your thoughts about our first year as a podcast platform, whatever the fuck you call it, brand, I don't know. Whatever you call what this is. Let's look back on year number 1 and celebrate all these W's, all the good times we've had, all the fun we've had on stream, all the amazing guests we've had on the show. It's been a great time, and I'm very much looking forward to celebrating it with y'all next week. So make sure you write in with those thoughts, and keep your ears to the ground, because we might have a couple other things to celebrate that 1-year anniversary coming out on the 9th. That's the day. So eyes peeled, everybody, all right? So thank you again for joining us. Everybody, go follow Sierra, all the places that she is, at Sierra Plus Ultra. That's
Yep.
right. All right, nailed it.
That's right.
I'm great.
Nailed it, yeah.
And then for us, we're flipscreen.games. You can find links to all the places you can find us. You can find our Twitch channel. You can find our sister show, the Flip Screen Games podcast. You can head over to our Patreon and get early access to this show. You could get our Patreon exclusive podcast, One More Thing. You can get a bunch of good stuff. And of course, it's the best way to show your support if you want to go above and beyond and keep these mics on. That is, of course, the best place for you to go and show your support. But however you choose to support us, however you choose to get involved, we are very thankful to have you as a member of the community. And thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Nintendo Noise. For the crew, I've been Pete, he's been Chewy, she's been Sierra. We'll see you next week.